I really like the stuff when it's like the underdog, because I still feel like one of those. And I like the idea that a couple moves from me could help fuck with the people who had 100 moves to make and did it. And they just weren't all that good.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Aaron. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. Hello.
So, before we hit the record button, you were telling me how you believe that you are probably the greatest brand designer of all time, and that nobody on the planet could light a candle to the brilliance of your work and the true nuance in everything that you do. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Boy, we have a comedian on our hands. Now, who knew that Ross Drake's his second job was to come up with on-the-cuff bullshit like he's saying right now? Because first of all, that's not what I fucking said. That's number one. Number two, you better stick to the graphic arts, Ross, because the delivery is a little tricky. Tonight, let me just at the Charlize Theron fucking auditorium in Johannesburg, it's Ross Drake's 1 hour special titled Ross Drake's Unplugged. I don't know what you call it. So just stick to the graphic design,
Okay.
Drakes. All right. Have I met you before?
No.
Because he comes after me. He wakes me out of a slumber here. I don't know what time it is there, 25 o'clock or some shit. Wakes me out of a slumber, and then he says, Draplin, our podcast is near death, and you are our only hope. See, isn't that fun, Drakes? It's fun, huh? And then he says, oh, we're going to talk about branding, and I have to say, man, I don't really know a lot about that stuff, which is the truth, because I go on these podcasts with branders. And then I get in trouble because you got some guy who's branding fucking Amex or something, or like I don't know, something big, and I'm branding my buddy's crappy little heavy metal band, and it's just two different worlds. And I don't know how to bring stuff to that table when I'm around branding people. I can tell a funny story though. Years ago, a woman was a headhunter, and she saw all my logos and things. And she called headhunting for a big branding agency in town here. And I got excited because I knew what they do. And we started talking money and my, responsibilities. And I'd have to get on planes and go sell the jobs and all this kind of shit. And you do this process where you're all excited because she came after me based on logos. This is 2010. Logos and shit she had been seeing on my, Flickr and my website and stuff. We go through this big process. She blows a ton of smoke right up my little asshole, as they just say, up the keister, as they say. I don't know how they say it down in Johannesburg. Blows a lot of smoke up the ass. I'm all excited. And then we get to the point where she says, and by the way, we're willing to offer $90,000 a year. And I said, well, $90,000 a year? And I said, well, wait, what do I have to wear there? She goes, oh, well, it's business casual. It means you got like a tuck a shirt in and kind of stuff. She goes, but on Fridays, you could just wear whatever you want. So that's kind of like a Hawaiian shirt Friday. Aaron Draplin, what do you think? And I said, last year I cleared $200,000. And I haven't worn pants in months. Fucking casual Friday or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? And I was very gentle. But I took the hook because I thought that was the next step up the ladder for someone like me who loved reading about these things, trying to learn about these things, applying it to snowboarding brands and bullshit around himself in small steps. And then here's my shot at the big leagues. And I got to tell you, man, that's where it was like, man, fuck, I don't give a shit about any of that, because that's what that world can be like. Meetings about meetings, emails about emails. And that was the closest I got to taking the bait and going after the big thing. Because maybe I would know more about that today. But I've just tried to apply consistency these last bunch of years to my friends or the occasional thing that's a little bit bigger, But I certainly don't consider myself like a branding person. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say it. I mean, is that what you guys do?
We do create brands for people, but not on that huge level. We really like to work with people when we can understand the people behind the product or the service or the company. I think that's where our kind of true magic comes to life, and we can bring their vision to life. And I think that's much more complicated when you're working with a huge company where it's so far, that origin point is so far away.
I'll just go on these interviews and people will say, "Well, what was it like doing?" I didn't brand. You know, I've worked for some big stuff, but that work is a weird word. I was one little satellite. I was one little freelancer. I didn't. I didn't, build the DNA for some of these things. But see, the game of perception with this stuff is people come after me and they think that I've had a bigger role, and it's like, no, no, I never said that I did either. That's like what's so weird about this stuff. It just tends to like, the game of perception just gets weirder and weirder, and like I love to bring it all back down to like, today I sent a T-shirt into Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, AOC, and I'm sure as this thing goes up, the T-shirt will finally go up. But on Friday, AOC said they're struggling to come up with a design for this little thing that was AOC plus me. And I just whipped out a couple things on Friday just for shits and giggles, just to see if I can even get an attention. And I got a call on Saturday morning, and they put it up Sunday to test it. And then I think it's going up either now or in a couple hours. But like this morning, I was sending, logos and things and stuff to one of our most controversial and awesome congresswomen in America, right? AOC. She's 31 or 30 years old. She's a kid. And she's holding to task our president and Supreme Court. I mean, all sorts of stuff. It's really, really interesting. And I just was a fan. Now, that's usually the kind of level that I'm doing. It's like, I just got lucky there. What if I just put that stuff up and she never called back? Well, I do that a lot. But I got the call back, and I mean, there was a pittance involved. I told him, I said, I don't even really care if I get paid. I'll donate the money to her campaign, honestly, and they can't really do that for, some sort of like election commission, rules. So I got paid a little something, and I'll just take that money and give it right back to, some committee to take down Don Trump's comb over. It's the committee to get that fucking thing shaved off. Can you believe this piece of shit that we have up here? Anywho, okay.
So I mean,
how am I doing, Ross? By the way, how am
I
I
think you're
doing?
doing very well. We're feeling the passion. We're feeling the energy. I'm interested. I think the two things that I love the most about your work is, one is you seem to be prolific. So you seem to create volumes of things, and you seem to always find something in anything and get very passionate about it. So now you said it's like my friend's silly little truck or this thing, but you saw something that other people might overlook and go, well, this is not really a thing that's worth my time, and you pour your heart and soul into it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying such nice stuff. Uh, uh, I guess it's all about moves. If it's the food cart, what are the couple moves my buddy gets to make? You know, it might only be the sign and a T-shirt and something to wrap the sandwich in, and that's it, because he can't afford anything past that. So it's like, well, how do we take advantage of what we need to say there and think through the things that we're not quite seeing? I like that little bit of strategy. It's like stuff like, you're going to need an Instagram, not just campaign, but a template. He's not a graphic designer, but can I arm him with something that he could just go back into one layer on a Photoshop doc? I'll show him how to make another layer, turn one off, turn one on, and then put the new sandwich special. And it's like that tiny little bit of strategy just to help arm my friend who would have left at his own devices, would have murdered that shit. I really like arming people that they can look like they should be taken seriously. That's all I would ever say. It's like, It's not to be the best or the coolest or the awesomest or the richest or the whatever the hell it is. It's more like, most successful. It just, it's like if you're putting the energy into making a great sandwich out of a food cart, well, I'll put the energy to make sure that you look like you are, because that stuff can take the good sandwich, bad branding or bad outreach or just bad execution can take that sandwich down with it. You know what I mean? Like, what we do in town here in Portland and probably anywhere, well, is you'll see like the cute side of things, and it makes you want to go in there and have that drink or have that sandwich or salad or coffee or whatever the hell. Well, they also have a team of people, maybe you guys, coming up with all that stuff. And I really like the stuff when it's like the underdog, because I still feel like one of those. And I like the idea that a couple moves from me could help fuck with the people who had 100 moves to make and did it. And they just weren't all that good. You know what I mean? If we could just do it with a couple moves, that's what skateboarding was for me. It's like, who had everything? The jocks, coaches, programs, equipment, fucking fields to go do it in, right? And what did we have? We had none of that. But we had each other and ingenuity, a couple, skateboard decks and t-shirts and shit. But we had each other and we had the sort of guts to just go and make our own way, It comes back from that permission there. It's like now when I see these tiny little moves, and listen, whether or not that's for a food cart or someone who's actually paying money, I just kind of attack it the same way. Like, there's an opportunity there. Why wouldn't we do that way? Turns out we actually saved money. Now you can give more money to me or whatever the hell it's going to be, So, I don't know. All this stuff is just sort of like, what's your best foot forward? What's your best foot forward? So when you say prolific, it's like, ooh, I get excited because it means you're seeing a certain, amplitude or something, like a lot of shit, and hopefully it all has a consistency that's, doesn't look like I'm phoning too much shit in. But when I started this stuff was like the voiceless or those who aren't in the right room or the right cliched like click or something, the same old shit. You could do a lot of stuff and it'll never show up because you're trying to do stuff that those in the cool set are doing. And you're never going to get there. And what I realized so fast was like, who gives a shit who's cool? I'm just going to make all my stuff as if I was in that room with all those other dipshits. For instance, call myself the Draplin Design Company. It's just me. But yet to this day, I get people calling saying, could I speak to someone in the hiring department? Yeah, let me put you on hold. And I pick it back up, and it's fucking me. Like, can I speak to someone in your strategy? Who do we talk to about pricing and stuff? It's like, so I was in Minneapolis and I saw people that I thought were these big things. And they had names and pluralities and shit. And then you meet them at a party and it's a dude in his basement. And you're kind of like, wait a second. The way you talk, and we're not talking ironically at all, is you're this, we provide this, services that way, this thing, we're this, we're that, we don't do this, we don't do that. Like, just this like laundry list of like, wow, I know all about you and your group. It's a guy in his basement who's full of shit. And I just was kind of like, man, I'm just going to have fun with this. I'm not going to worry about what is and isn't the right thing to, to get me into the cool room. I'm just going to do it. And because the fun part about that is what you quickly learned was if it is just for your friend in his food cart, that can have the same good moves at something that cost someone $100,000 to make, And if someone can discern that, those two case studies, because I do have those sitting next to each other in the book and other things, and they can't tell the difference. They can't tell the difference. And that was really exciting for me because the fun part about the food cart thing was it helped elevate my friend to be a player in that crowd. And we had, to this day, I've never been paid a penny This is a thing called Cobra Dogs. I've never been paid a penny, but it taught me that like it's not always about the paycheck. I've got a lot of jobs because of the Cobra Dogs. Because people see that thing, they don't know there's no money involved, and then they hire me thinking that it was some big project, and that's subversive in a way. We kind of tricked them to coming after me. So all that stuff adds up. And I just got this confidence of like I'm not afraid to show the shit that was just I can make something out of nothing, and I often do. But there's angles, and it's like a deck of cards. You don't want to sell, 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 sell. You know, and you don't want to motivate, all that shit. That's just like 19 ways to quit your job and all that kind of shit. Those like kind of aspirational, you don't want to just coach on your Instagram. You want to have a little bit of a whoop-de-doo and a little bit of a roller coaster. Sell something on a Monday, show them some shit you found on a Tuesday, prep up a buddy's book on Wednesday. You see what I'm getting at? Like, I do see these like patterns out there where it's like, wow, they're just working all the time, selling hard all the time. And it becomes tone deaf. It's like, who cares if the work is good? What'd you guys have for lunch? Where'd you guys screw up? Where'd she, what was something that scared her? Like, I don't know. I like to show all that kind of stuff and try to just roll with those punches, because if a kid's interested in me, I want to show the things that were really good. And then the things that were a little bit prickly, because that is the truth. That's what I'm dealing with here, and I want that to be part of the story. I'm not afraid of that bringing me down a notch or something. Like, it is part of the story. I don't know if that even makes sense.
I think a lot of what you're talking about is authenticity. There seems to be a lot of authenticity in who you are and how you present yourself, and you seem to try and bring that to life in the other people that you do work for and the other projects that you work on. Like, do you think is that a deliberate thing, or is that just you find the things that interest you and put a spotlight on them?
I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with like limited resources. And it's like when you work on smaller things, you only get a couple chances to do things. You know what I mean? And it's like it better be exactly what you guys are. Because that's what's like weird about branding and storytelling. I think was a cool word a couple of years ago and all that stuff. I mean, I get it. It's like you have the ability. Facebook, you have the Instagram, all these things. You have the ability to be, whatever you want to be, at least in that image. Like, if I can just get my angle just right, I just lost like 35 pounds. If I just get the angle just right, there it is. But I go back to just being a big fucking beast, and I'm back to whatever. It's like that stuff freaks me out, because then you get to hide behind a bunch of stuff. So if my authentic self, it's a weird word, authenticity, because I get this stuff on the road where I'm there's a panel of us and they're sitting in chairs and I'm up there squirming with the mic, sitting in the chair, and I'm doing my best to answer and trying to be 1/6 of the 6 people. And then I'll have someone stand up and go, Draplin, you're very authentic. Now, what does that say to the other 5 people sitting there? And it's like, whoa. And I'll just go into this, and here it comes. It's canned as it is right now, as it is on that stage in front of 2,000 people at some conference. It was like, she's authentic to her brand of rigidity. He thought, this guy's definitely authentic to being boring as shit or whatever. You know what I mean? They're authentic to what they are. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe I'm just a little more unabashed or something, or naive. And it comes off in a weird way. But, I don't know. I just, my story is my story. And if someone can't tap into, that's the real or the ugly or the good or the cool about it, well, I'm not going to fight them to try to, get them into my thing. If they're not into it, they're not into it. What are you going to do? But the problem is we yearn for these things, and we engage in such a way where, it's hard to have people not into your stuff. We want more clicks and licks and likes and licks. Links, clicks and shit. We want more of this stuff. And I mean, the dopamine rush, I feel it too. But I'm just going to put it out there. because otherwise I'm being a chump. You know what I mean? And I'm telling something that isn't necessarily true, and that comes back to haunt. I mean, I see that stuff. I see shit out there where it's like, this is gonna make me sound horrible. The ninth thing today, but I've met you in the backstage. Someone. I've met you. And you're not. You're not what your Instagram says you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? I can wholeheartedly say if some kid meets me at a conference or at the goddamn supermarket 2 blocks from here, I am hopefully exactly what they thought I was going to be, and, whatever. Um, because what else is there? You know what I mean? Like when I go to the airport, I love when people come up to me at the airport because it's exciting and weird, but they quickly get deflated because they see that I'm just a guy lugging his gear in to get onto the next show like they are. And they're like confused, like, can we help you with your luggage? It's like, fuck yeah, grab it. Because they think that I have an assistant or something. They think that, like, because they're looking at something and it's big. And really what this goes back to, it goes back to, like, as a kid, seeing, like, the bands I loved. And when you saw Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips pushing the gear up onto stage, plugging things in, running into the back to do something, maybe interviews. I've done an interview with him, but he touched everything. And it wasn't this process where someone came and grabbed him at showtime and then he went up and did the show and then went back and they put a towel on his shoulders. It wasn't like that. I really enjoyed seeing that he did every part of it and then shared every part of it with the crew. And then when he was done, until the shit got put back into the trucks and stuff, he was at least signing autographs and meeting me, like making time for me. And I mean, how does that apply to graphic design? Well, a couple different ways. And it's like, it was just, I don't know, liberating to see that. That comes from punk rock, or whatever that idea of punk rock is. Like, I got some heat a couple weeks ago because I was in some video and I was talking about being a punk rocker, and this kid wrote, "You're not a punk rocker. You're this." I don't want fucking spikes on my jacket, and the things, and the fucking the thing. I see yours finally healed up where your nose ring used to go to your ear like that back in the day. Looks good, but who gives a fuck about any of that? It's not about oi or whatever. It's about your heart. And making your own shit. And like, I saw that with these bands where they could own every part of the process. It wasn't just delegated down the mountain to a bunch of wherever. And people are surprised when they see that with me. And I really am honored to say it's just me, or it's me and Lee. You can see Lee pushing at a bunch of shit. As we're going into the airport. Also, it's we if there's any triumph, it's ours, and if there's some shortcomings, and there's a lot of that, it's ours too, and that is the real, I guess, authentic take on this stuff. I mean, when I talk shit like that and say I've met some of these people, you have to understand that means I'm looking up to somebody, and I'm in the backstage like taking notes, I'm going, whoa, I saw your thing, I listened to this, I saw this movie, I saw some shit. I've been listening, and you said this, this, and this. And what you just told me in the backstage here is considerably different than what you sold to that crowd. And that's when I get a little squirmy. And I just start doing stupid shit like this, Ross Drake's down in Johannesburg. How you doing? Yep, 100,000 field notes. We could have them drop ship by Monday. Okay, see ya. Making shit up like that just to plant a seed with these other people who are so full of shit. I do a little bit of that too when I'm out there, and I steal a lot of shit out of backstages. I do. I'll be honest about it.
So,
might be tape, might be
gaffer tape.
iPhone.
You should steal as much gaffer tape as you can, because that stuff is really expensive.
I'm always back going, how much of this gaffer's tape you guys got laying around? The guy's like, oh, we loved your show, dude. Take it. It's like, oh, I got some fucking gaffer's tape, or like the bottles of water. Because listen, you get back to the hotel room. And drinking out of the fucking toilet, and it's just to save money because those Voss waters are $8 or whatever. I'm not doing it. And when I was in the Philippines, and you got to be careful what you drink and shit, we were living off what was in that backstage. We were living off it. And I would just take a big armful into my bag and, just be dousing myself with it back in the room because otherwise everyone was all nervous. Oh, I don't need that. I was grabbing fruit and shit. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, like how have you decided instead of spending your time and your energy working for somebody else to sort of turn that around and actually spend it, your time and your energy working, on your own product, and how do you think about your own brands when you sort of create them? Because now you're not going to get paid a fee. You have to ultimately sell something if you want to get any kind of dollars back into the bank.
This is a big one, man. This is a big one. This is when I got into graphic design, and 94, 95, whatever that was, 93. And I started to see the heroic element, which was like looking through these big annuals and picking out things I liked. And it might have been Chuck Anderson or Modern Dog or House Industries, things I liked, right? And what was cool about like a House Industries is you couldn't tell if it was just a bunch of designers in a room making cool shit for themselves. Turns out it was. Because my interaction was like, oh, they make typefaces and they sell mouse pads and cool things and magazines and stuff. And who does that? It's like they were making and charting their own course. So I got that permission. That comes also from skateboarding and kind of punk rockery too. When it was my turn to be someone who could maybe make his own hat or something, first of all, it was absurd. Like, who wants to have, DDC on their hat? Well, it turns out a bunch of people did, which was cool. Friends first. But you come into it and you just kind of say, like, there's no knife against my throat, like saying, if I don't sell any of these, I'm going to be in trouble. No, it's 48 hats. Who gives a shit? I'm going to make them for my friends and just give them and let people enjoy them. So there's no risk. It's just fun. And basically things just got bigger and bigger to the point where I wasn't afraid to roll the dice on myself. And that's where Field Notes comes from. Because it was like, really, I just want to make my own little book. And if I make my own little book, because I need these, I use these. They're always in my pocket. They're always in, my stuff. I'm sketching for some shit today, and I use them and I live on them. There's no company in mind. I'm just going to go make my own. And what, a couple $1,000 to make that first couple thousand books? That's all it was. And then you give them to a friend, Jim Coudal, and he sees something there. And suddenly, I didn't even have that vision yet. Jim taught me to have that vision. So now, when we're working on things and stuff, it's all about like in the red or in the black, right? And when you're in the red and you owe a bunch of money, I can't operate that well because I'm making decisions only based on paying back what I owe, right? So those were client jobs because they were solid footing. And you knew you were going to get you have to be on the clock. You can't be, talking like an asshole. You can't be whatever. You have to be good on your email. You have to be doing the job. That's how I got ahead. Like, I got out of the red. Once I got out of the red into the black, it was like I could start spending my money on my own bullshit because it wasn't from a place of fear, right? So these little things, Field Notes, or the DDC merch, now all these like little fun products and stuff. Like we've been making my watch I got to make. That's a Timex watch. All it is just a simple collab. But what's interesting is when they approach you, Timex is like, but we want to do it with Aaron Draplin. And it's like, well, that's awesome, But before we do any of that, why don't you just prove to me that you can just make me a kick-ass watch? Because that other stuff is too volatile. Marketing me and using my face and making videos and things and stuff. The timeline's too long. How quick can you just shit out a watch for me? And I'll just be a customer. And I'll buy 500 of these things. How much? Oh, okay. And then I have a big stack of them here. And then I got to sell them to my people. That's a little business. But it removes all risk from whether or not Timex, like what happens if I fall flat for Timex? That comes back on me. It's like, I'm a customer. I just got them and they're coming soon, this kind of thing. And it's like, that was really liberating because the money made, first of all, I had it in the bank to cover. the money made tasted so much better than the money I made for something that was a little bit more abstract, and these client things and stuff. I mean, I was working on clients this morning. It's fine, and getting off a call, where it's a client. There's not a lot of money involved, at least on that one, but I don't really care. It's all right, and that's all part of the ups and downs of all this stuff. But this ability to say, wow, what if I got myself completely away from being on the hook with someone else? Because when I make these things, it's just me taking the risk, me coming up with the stuff. Now, when we go forward, and if Timex does do like a proper set of colors, because like one of the things we want to do is like, if I dip them in a bunch of DDC colors, it would look a lot of the same, but it would be like brought to you by Timex, right? That kind of thing. So, I have something coming up here from my buddies called the James brand. And, this is all the packaging and stuff, and these little knives. And of course, you can imagine what mine's going to look like, but there's this stuff. Now, check it out. I'm getting 500 of these kick-ass little pocket knives. I've had one on where are my car keys? They're somewhere around here, but I've had one of these on my car keys for 4 years. My buddy Ryan started this little company, right? Mine has worked for 4 years. So I'm going to make these. Listen, they come after me to say, let's make a DDC product. And it's like, I go into this whole spiel of like basically just removing kind of them from the process and saying, you be the manufacturer, I'll be the customer, I get a stack of these back, we'll share all the glory, sure. But I don't want to be worried that like if I don't sell these, you're going to be pissed. That kind of thing. So that's been really, really fun, And I mean, in some respects, that's what my Skillshare stuff is. Those guys come after me, we scheme up something, they have the platform, and then I make the stuff and we do it on there, and it's a great relationship. But like the funnest stuff is when it's just sort of my neck on the line, and it's small battles. It's not like I'm getting 500 of these, and it's like, that's 500. Now, a couple weeks ago, we put these little doodads up, these little decimal charts. I had a stack of 500 of them. It was about this thick of 500, right? Got them from this guy, had a little stack or whatever it was. And one day, we sold 500 of these fuckers, 540. Now, the risk there is like, you're going to piss 40 people off who couldn't get their little stupid $10 thing. I thought I'd sell 100. So I'm learning my reach, and I'm learning how volatile things can get. So right away, I was like, I called the guy all excited. I sold 540. Can I get 750 more? So 5 days ago, the 750 went up. We're down to 10 7 days later. So I just called up and I said, fuck it, man, do 2,000. I got a lifetime supply. Like the world's aluminum supply just went down because of my job. Some guys in a mine somewhere going, God damn it, we got to make more of this. I don't know where they get the aluminum, but I don't know that world. Field Notes does. They know how to assess where the numbers are going, and I'm still like just volatile. Like 800 of these, let's give it a shot. 200 of these, who cares? I'll do T-shirts worth 75, sell them all in an afternoon, and then be like, fuck, why didn't I do 750? You know what I mean? Like, that world has been really fun to be in because, frankly, the only hearts I'm going to break there are the 40 customers that couldn't get it, and they're okay. They'll get it in 5 days later or whatever it is. There's just too much like, when the more cooks in the kitchen, there's more chance to get not even break their hearts, have my heart broken. Case in point, I just did a big job for a big goddamn thing at the start of the summer. Can't talk about it, But I was a test. And I'm sure you guys do this too. You throw your hats in the ring, you do the pitch. Sometimes you get the pitch, sometimes you don't. I made a nice chunk of money for my exploration. But I gave 2 months of my life for this stuff. And I guess it wasn't the start of summer. It was April and May. I gave 2 months of my life where every morning when I came into this shop, the first email I was scared and concerned about was from that project. They went right to the top of all my life, right? And I made a nice chunk over that couple months because this is the big leagues. But let's just say I didn't get that job. And whatever that money was, I was able to make it with this stuff. Why did I take that bait? Because I was trained to take that bait. Aaron, this is the big leagues. They do stuff that goes global. To get my fucking payment was more work than the work I did. To get into systems and having to prove that I'm not a fucking financial wreck and all this other shit. There's just hoops, hurdles, whip-de-doos, paperwork, a mile thick, just to get in there so I can get my paycheck. And then when we're done with the project, I don't even know if it's done. I never heard back. When they released, who knows? I mean, maybe you're in it. I get to the end of this, and it's like, I guess I'm done. Now I get paid. It's 90 days to get paid. If you want to get paid in 60, they take a 2% off. If you want to get paid in 30, you can take whatever it was. It was just like, why would I just not make my own shit and just have small battles to make little fun of candy corn or fall forever and just let these stack up in my own little way? It's trivial shit, sure. But I got to tell you, slow and steady wins the race and also feeds the soul. Every person who bought one of these had a good time with these things. I got my heart broken on that big shit. Imagine doing that all year long. I fucking go nuts, So
can I ask you?
a lot of this stuff is kind of like.
Can I ask you? A lot of our mission is to give people control of their brands back. Because so often companies, they don't have the skill in house, or they don't have maybe it's just they don't have the perception that they can do it themselves. So they give it out to these designers and agencies and freelancers, and sometimes those people do right by them and other times they don't. Sometimes they give them a piece of work that they can't use, and eventually it just sort of dies. So if you were giving advice to someone who's got a company and they want to do what you've done and almost just take control back for themselves, like what would you tell them to think about and to work towards?
Well, I mean, first of all, what you do as a service is a really cool thing. I would always promote a group like you guys, because what you don't want people to do is to screw it up, and because that can hurt them. They understand how to do so many other parts of their business, and of course, I always want to put that money into the pockets of like-minded friends who do this as a service. I think that's a cool thing. But like anything, if you're just starting out, it's all about knowing how to play the deck of cards. How to play these things and when to play them, and how to enjoy them and how to make this stuff fun. Like I love when I start a logo out and people are like stressed and shit, and I just stop them and say, this is like DNA creation here. Like, this should be really exciting. We're going to come up with something that you guys get to use. Let's not say forever. Maybe it's 5 years or 10 years. We'll make something new in 5 years. But for the next 5 years, I'm going to arm you with something cool. Let's get in the right space. And I know how to do that and get them sort of psyched up, and get excited to be engaged. Because that's one of the tips I always try to, whenever I sell tips, at these Skillshares and shit, it's like, how do I make the client pick the logo? It's like, first of all, you got to get the client in the right headspace so they're engaged and they're excited and they're seeing that this little toolkit that comes with it lands on all their stuff. It works this big. It works this big on a sweatshirt. It's like we thought through all those elements. So that's how you get people to like start saying yes on things instead of, I don't like that because I don't like that color today or whatever. The kind of goofy shit we hear from clients. But I mean, what I would say always is like, I'm pretty good at promoting like my friends. There's this one group in town called Jolby, and they do incredible work. And they do a lot of illustration stuff. And I'll tell people like, I don't even know if they're like full service. I just see what they do with their own brand. And I'll say to people like, I'm not an illustrator. I could figure something out, but these guys are. call them, and they can. I don't even know if they do all the tip to toe. I don't even know. I just say they do, and say go talk to them, because first of all, they're going to make incredible illustrations for you. And do they build websites? I don't know, but I'm sure they hire people for it. Like I always put the money there. I always put so people don't screw things up. Now listen, if someone's curious and they're just starting out, it's like, well, what can you do with small moves? Think about how you talk on your Twitter. Think about, you can control that. You touch the keyboard. You don't need to hire Ross or I to do that for you. You can just do that. But think about how what that voice is like. Because like when I worked on Cole Headwear, which is beanies, that's these guys that were just calling about, they're making they're making masks now. When I worked on Cole Headwear, there was a way that we spoke. I guess that's branding too. There was a way that we messaged things. We were chill. How would the guys who owned the company talk to me? I would just record it and say, that's the copywriting. If we try to copyright this stuff, we're all going to fuck it up because you guys can't spell, much less write a coherent sentence. How did you tell me when we were just in the elevator? Oh, Draplin, that's the one with the cool little clip in the back. Done. Because that's authentic to them. Now, when you go to the other side of this Cole Headwear, this thing called Union Binding Company. This is about 8 years ago for me, but still, they were about confidence. And their little tagline was stronger. The strongest snowboard binding in the world. I mean, just come out and say it. Now, I don't know if you tweak theirs versus the other competitors or whatever, if it's who the fuck the strongest is, just own it. And what that allowed us is it allowed us a filter to drop things through. When we talk about the bindings, we don't need to be all chill like on the elevator or like having lunch together. No, it's like an economy of words. How do we get to the fastest message the quickest? So it's kind of like I try to explain to people what I do in branding or what I do for a client or even a buddy or whatever is like set up filters. And the idea is if you drop something, a piece of type through that filter, it acts and behaves and comes out a certain way. And it's not the way that me and you would talk. It's the way that that brand would come out and spit, because then it's like everyone, doesn't matter who's using the filter. When they drop some messaging through it, they understand the hashtags and the things and the stuff and the whatever. And I know, I've heard, other people sort of, educating me about how they do that for a service. But it's like anything. It's like, these are our colors. These are limited moves we get to make. So for the couple moves you get to make sure they're consistent, just, and if you need help from me, cool. But what's cool is like, I work for a restaurant in town here where I gave them the same elevator pitch where it was like, because here's the deal, just to be honest, I don't want to be sitting on the phone with this guy all day. He's got other literal fish to fry. He's got other things to deal with. I don't want to be coaching him. So when I built him a template and said, for the price of Creative Cloud, so you can crack this open in Illustrator and update your menu, if you hire me to do it, it's going to cost this much a year. If you can go crack it open and have you do it, or I think his wife might even do it, well, they're getting control. It's pretty cool. Now, they're not going to change logos and things and stuff, but I made them a template one time, and then I showed them how to dupe the file, and then they just update it as they would. If a dish goes away, in this pandemic where things are sort of limited, they needed a little bit of tune-up on the thing, and I don't even charge for it. I just kind of grab it and just do a thing, and then I say, okay, now you can have 3 dishes and 3 dishes, or whatever it was. Like, that is a very human thing, and I like to set people up for success with that kind of stuff. This way I'm removed from it. I know there's like billable hours and all this kind of shit, but it's like, I just try to say, like, let's do an audit of what your needs are. Oh, you got to talk to people. You got to show some Instagrams. Like, figure out a way to, like, like if you're going to show the dish, make sure the light goes here and the something goes here and the something goes here and the dish sits here. And every time you do it, you're consistent. That kind of shit. Make a little set. Oh, okay. So otherwise, it's just kind of like different lighting and shit. Because every time you talk about the food, make sure they're not product photographers. You know what I mean? But with a couple little moves I can hand over, because that's really no different than how I would do it. I don't know. I mean, when I can, I like to see my buddies make the money, of course. But if it is my friend in the food cart, before I send them trying to learn how to do JavaScript or some shit, no, I just explain you really need a couple little moves. You know, tell me what you need. Oh, I need a sign. You know, one of those A board signs. We can solve that today. Okay. B. What do you need next? Need a website. You got to call the website people. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know. How do you? By the way, how do you tell when a website, a web developer? You know web developers,
Yeah.
right? How do you tell when they're lying? You just see if their lips are moving. Fuckers lying right to your face, right to my face. Isn't this fun,
It
Ross?
is. Well, Aaron, I think we have time for one last question, one more question, if we want to tie into the
As
branding of
many
the
as you need, man.
podcast.
No sweat. As many as you need.
My question to you is, and I'm always interested in people who, because we've talked to people who own brands, people who create brands. We've even spoken to someone who hires people for brands. And I asked all of them this question, and that is, what role do you see brands playing in our society? Like, where do you see brands fitting in to the world that we live in?
Well, it's such a big question. You know, it's like, North Dakota. Next question. How do you, you know, it's like a set of relationships, a set of comforts, a set of trust, like these little flavors of like, you go all the way to the top. Apple, for my needs, I can trust that stuff. I can trust it. There's a price you pay, you know, to have the coolest, latest shit or whatever you want to call it. But there's a relationship there, you know, and for my needs, I know I'm gonna have to kind of cough up a little extra to get some of the greatest stuff in the world. And now that has been broken a smidge because I don't need another phone, but they're pushing me to get another phone. You know what I mean? Like this one works. In the last couple cycles, I just let it go. I just let it go. Did I really need a better camera? You know what I mean? Like you start to see the when I just read this thing a week ago about where they're not even going to put like the pods and the cords and shit. Do you really need us to go buy more of that shit? I mean, they hurt me a little bit. So, well, that's my needs. I need I need those things, and it's like you look at a brand, you want to trust it, and you want to believe in it, and you don't want them to let you down, and you want to be like, I worked hard for my money, and I trusted them. If they make lots of profit or little profit, I don't really care. This helps me make my life better. I trust it. And they're like, it could be just in the sort of like consistency of how they talk in the world or how they look in the world or how I see them on my stuff. For instance, if a brand talks to you too much with too much advertising, it turns you away. But if they get to you in the right way, in a potent way, in a thoughtful way, we're still cool. You know what I mean? It's like a relationship. I don't know how to say it. So when I see those things out there, it's like, remember years ago where it was like suddenly everything was kind of cute in branding and a lot of ukulele music to get, help you with like, like get your insurance and stuff. I'll just say it was kind of cool because it made it like something scary, like healthcare or something a little more approachable, and not so like scary or something, and like someone, maybe you are people, whatever, they made that decision for someone. That's pretty cool. It made it, it's like when I went to my dentist here, my dentist, and this is just a local dentist a block away, but whoever built their stuff understood from the time, the graphics aren't the greatest, but when you come in through the door, they're already putting your mind at ease. It's a service you're paying for. And when you leave, you leave with a nice card, and then they hit you up a week before your next thing. I mean, every time I go in there, they're finding some shit to keep you coming back in, and that's business. But I will say, the process is really comfortable. they're really upfront with the pricing and stuff. There's charts and things, and they could all be full of shit, whatever. But I trust them, and I will say I'm getting good care, and that's branding too. He understood that they don't have to go at it alone. Someone's helping them make that decision. I could go in there, and that's the fun part about like going into these places. It's like I could probably make them a better logo and stuff, but really doesn't even need it. They're offering a really good service. So I just look at it like, these are relationships out in the world, and certain things grab me, and certain things I trust, and then certain things I will put my complete, stock into and hold them to that too. It might be, I know it sounds weird, but a certain brand of underwear that's like, I need underwear. You need underwear. I can trust this brand at Target. I don't know if you guys have Target. I'm sure you don't have Target. Whatever you have down there, whatever your version of going to whatever that thing is. Well, for us here at Target, it's just a little step up from like a Walmart. So when you go to Target and you buy your underoos, they're another buck a pair than the other ones at everywhere else. But they're a little softer. The packaging's just a little bit nicer. And it's just like there's the colors are just a little bit better. Like I really appreciate that. I'm like really thankful that I don't have to like it goes back to the computer thing. It's like I feel so thankful I get to work on Illustrator and all this stuff because there were a lot of years I didn't have any of this shit, and I wasn't allowed to go get the fastest machine. I got the base level. I would put my own RAM in. So sketchy. Little things around your wrist and you're plugging, grounding yourself. Who fucking knows what I was doing? But I couldn't afford what I wanted. And I always felt like less. But no, it was my run up to getting to the point now. Like, you want to see me now, man. When I go into that Mac store pre-pandemic, and I'm every 3 years I get a new laptop, I just get to roll in there and say, fastest one you got, most SSD, this, most just what, $3,300? Okay, done. I used the shit out of that thing on the road the last 3 years and so on, right? Like the first couple of times I got to do that, I felt guilty because I was always nervous to the guy would wait 5 months until they came down in price and all that other kind of shit, So like there's just these are like little modules of trust. And until they do what they did, this Apple did this last week. For the first time in my life, I was like, maybe they aren't the only thing to go to. And then I don't know what I'm going to get next. Some fucking flip phone, Samsung dingleberry with a big cord, and I don't know what, some goddamn thing. It's like
You're unhappy that you're
when
trapped.
well, what I'm really happy to do for people when they ask for help with something is just to arm them in ways where they can be as real as possible to the service that they offer and doesn't make it look too much like someone cute or whatever. If ukulele music is appropriate, that's what you do, But if it's, if it's my buddy in a food cart, it's about being crusty, well, then that's what they're going to do, And then we just arm them so they know how to do that the right amount in the right way to hold people, just like stuff like here's like just when we have a poster, my girl sent me a picture this morning. We put a poster in a tube and we send these things off like 20 a day or something, right? 1 in 100 gets thrown in a lake or gets backed over by a truck or just something. And one of these ones, it was in a puddle. I mean, that's the only way you could do it. It was soaked in a puddle. The water goes up into the poster. It shreds off the bottom. And it just looks like a dog ate it or something. And it's like the kid, when he wrote me back, I mean, what am I out on that thing? Well, the value of it's $30 plus shipping and all this other shit. Our first instinct always is just to say, we'll just send you another one. You're the 1 out of 100 that got shit on. We got you. And then when he wrote me back this morning, he was like, Draplin, thank you so much. Like, first of all, the last poster I had to go missing, I had to buy another one. I was like, what are you talking about? Well, they made me take it up with the post office. Bureaucracy as far as you can, whatever. You're never going to get a hold of someone. That's branding. I've got that guy for life now. Why? Because that's just our easiest policy. Like just the idea of like making someone go through those hurdles, that's not good. That's just not good as a company, right? So when I explain to people like, if they don't like your sandwich, Food cart guy, change it. They understand that. I align myself with those sorts of cool decisions. I don't want to be with, I don't want to be involved with someone who is playing games like that with each other, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, kind of hardlining and stuff. And that's just, I know it's a small example, but that's no different than how you talk on your Instagram, and that's no different than how you your customer service or the way your logos look or the way the icons look. All those things factor. And I don't know if I'm even doing it right, but I go on sort of like, you know, don't be the company that turns me away. Because in town here, if we go somewhere and I'm like, can I just have, I'm not an onions guy. No onions on the salad. No, that's not what we don't do. Substitutions. Fuck, we're done. We're done for 666 years. You motherfuckers, you couldn't even just. And I'm just grumbling outside of the place. And there's a line of people wrapped outside that door because they're living the high life. They can lose stupid here. They can lose me pretty easily. You know what I mean? But after a while, that shit tips and they're losing more people than they're coming in. And that's when they go out of business. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't want to work for those places. If they lose me, there's restaurants. There's a Thai restaurant we've been going to here for 16 years. At Christmas time, we go there for Christmas dinner, the night before Christmas, because I'm so far away from my home in Michigan, We go there in like 16 years. We go every 4 weeks, 3 weeks. If they ever have a problem with the dish, they just fix it right on the spot. You know what I mean? There's just no questions asked. They will have my heart forever.
I mean, I love this because I think what you're saying is it's almost just brands can just be decent humans and companies can be decent humans and they can just treat humans the way they want to be treated, and that's makes for a better world and a better experience and more loyal customers and ultimately probably in the long run more money. And that's
right. Isn't that funny how someone's short-sighted and can't see that? Like for instance, like I don't know what you guys do exactly, but if you hired a copywriter that knew how to speak a language to me, that's a good decision. That's a filter that you either removed or put in place to like handle someone like me or the next person up the food chain or whatever it is. And those little decisions, those are pretty exciting. I mean, are you guys hiring? Maybe I could come down there. You guys could put me to work, and I'll make logos, and we could kick the world's ass.
You don't have to wear pants at nice work. Oh
my God! If I stand up right now, there's some kind of an international situation because a guy went down to who knows me at the post office. He said, "You wear pants this year?" Yeah. Nothing this year. I have these like workout shorts and shit, That's all I've had. I haven't had to put even sweatpants on, whatever. Like what a weird year, So, as we wrap this thing up, I hope you guys are okay down there. I don't know what the numbers are down in Johannesburg. We're going through our, whatever's here. Some states don't do it. Some states do. It's just fucking scary and weird. And, Portland's really good about it, from the get-go.
Now you
But
have
we're
hundreds
also
of
curious
masks to sell to people,
I
so
know.
they can go to the Draplin Design Company and get their own mask.
Get a little branding and stuff.
Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I love your passion. I love your energy. I love the work that you create. And hopefully one day I can come and eat Thai food with you in Portland.
Oh my goodness, me and you, this town will not be safe. I offer many services that we don't list on here. Are you on the market? Are you off the market with the? Are you taken? Are you married? Are you? What's
I'm
your
married
deal?
with the most beautiful little child and the most beautiful wife.
Okay, because I was gonna say you come here and you'll be married by the time we're done kicking this town's ass. I don't even know what I'm talking about. No. So you're off the market. You're a family man. Well, congratulations on that. If you ever come here, you hit me up and we'll go get a meal or a sandwich, or I'll have you over to the shop. It can be that way. It's been so weird that like I haven't had anybody over to the house. I'm talking no one, and I miss that because not only would I have people over here that were fans, so I have to make sure they're not an axe murderer, But I miss that sort of exchange. We don't have. I mean, we're doing it this way, sure, So it was an honor to be on here. I hope I sounded okay for you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Go check out draplin.com, Field Notes brand, Skillshare videos, ddcfonts.com. Those ship right to Johannesburg. Just download through the tubes. Go check out my girlfriend's project, Notes to Self. You guys go check that out. She does cool stuff. But what's the big conference in South Africa? What's
The
the big one
design
down
in
there? Yeah, see, I know Gemma O'Brien from the circuit. I've had a lot of friends go down there, and that one sounds like an interesting one. I mean, the farthest I've gone was probably for the Philippines. That was a long one, but I know that Johannesburg is even farther from at least our vantage points. But if I ever get down there, man, we'll go kick some ass. I'll come to your shop and roll around a little bit with all those cool books and stuff you have in the back. And by the time we're done, you'll be missing something when I'm done with it. You'll be missing. Something just seems a little light over here. He wasn't stealing water bottles. Thank you, man. Take care. We'll see you around.
And we'll catch you in the next one.